Some abusive men don't avoid accountability by sounding cruel. They do it by sounding really healthy. They make you sound crazy, right? They don't always say, this is your fault. Sometimes they say, we both need to communicate better, or we just need to get on the same page. Relationships take two. We both have work to do. I'm just asking for a little effort. And these words sound really mature. And I think that for a lot of women, your brain kind of pauses and you think, okay, maybe this is accountability. Maybe this is him trying. You see all these skits online and relationship coaches and therapists talking about the ways that they blame shift. And a lot of those videos, they don't sound like him. This is what he sounds like. He sounds healthy, right? But somehow by the end of the conversation, you are the one with the homework. You have to communicate better. You have to change your tone or be more affectionate or stop bringing up the past, right? You have to just be more playful. You have to stop undermining him. You have to explain it differently. You have to pick a better time, right? You brought up his behavior, but you're responsible for the relationship. Now that's the trick. He takes a specific thing that he did, and then he kind of melts it into this big relationship language. Maybe you've been arguing about chores and he keeps ignoring you. And when you bring it up, he's like, we just need to communicate better. Or you bring up that you were dealing with the kids and you didn't need his help. He started yelling and he's like, well, we just need to get on the same page when it comes to the kids. Maybe you tell him you don't feel close to him because he keeps hurting you. And he responds with, well, relationships take two. Watch that. Because an abusive man using the phrase we sounds really nice, but he's not actually creating partnership. He's giving you the illusion of that. He's spreading his little accountability around until it lands right on you. So I want to break down 3 accountability sounding phrases that abusive men use to avoid accountability. Why they work on women who are actually trying really hard to be fair, and what he's actually saying underneath all of this healthy language. My name is Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach, author of 5 books, and expert in toxic and abusive relationships. On my channel, I expose what abusive men are doing so that women can see through it. Well, let's start with a really basic example, right, that happens in so many relationships. During a cleaning argument, which is something that so many couples, even ones not in abusive relationships, are having these kinds of arguments. But let's say you're talking about cleaning or the dishes or laundry or the mental load, right? That invisible list in your head that nobody else sees until you friggin' fall apart underneath it. Now, you have already communicated, right? You've already said what needs to be done. You've probably had conversations about who does what and when they need to get done. You've made lists. You've assigned tasks. You've asked kindly, calmly, all these things, right? You've probably asked while you're crying. You've asked while you're furious. You've asked him with a calendar, with a chore chart, all of these things that typically you would use on, I don't know, children. But here you are parenting your husband, parenting your boyfriend. You have asked him in ways that are wildly specific. And then he responds with, we just need to communicate better. Like, sir, what have we been doing? What has this been? An interpretive dance? No, we have been communicating. This is communication. When we ask, do A, B, and C, or could you please A, B, and C, there's your question. There's communication. He's not lacking in communication. He's not lacking in information. The issue is what he does with the information. Communication, honestly, just becomes a way for him to restart the conversation over and over again, right? Because it sounds healthy. We need to communicate. Of course you do. Everyone needs better communication. And so much of couples counseling is based on the framework of people don't know how to communicate better. So it sounds normal, but it actually just hits a reset button because every single time you name the pattern, communicating, right? He sends you back to the beginning. It's actually like a god-awful game of chutes and ladders, right? Back to the beginning, explain it again, be more specific, find a better system. Just tell me what you need. Remind me, make me a list. Don't assume I know. I'm not a psychic, right? You're just better at these things. But do you see, you keep not solving the original problem. You just are managing his confusion, more specifically, his alleged confusion. And I think this is very useful for an abusive man because as long as the issue is communication, he can avoid the obvious question. Why do you keep ignoring what I've already communicated, Evan? And I think really the question that needs to be asked is, well, who specifically needs to communicate better? Listening is actually, ironically, part of communication. It's not just the person speaking, right? What exactly do you need to be better about our communication, right? You've explained it 14 ways. You've written it down. You've made the list. You've said you're exhausted. Now you're resentful because there's a horrible power imbalance. You keep saying you can't keep carrying the house alone. So what needs to change, right? Is it the man who hears a clear request and he just treats you like you're nothing but background noise? Like what you're saying doesn't matter? The man who calls it nagging until you stop asking, of course, and then he gets mad at you because you're angry and resentful. Is it the man who says that you need to communicate better and yet he needs every task personally assigned to him like he's a part-time employee in his own house? We need better communication. It sounds so mutual, but it's actually very one-sided in an abusive relationship because he doesn't respond with action, right? You did communicate. So it's not a communication problem. It's actually, I would argue, a benefit problem because he benefits from not understanding you too quickly, right? Explain it again. Tell me again. I don't understand. I'm confused. Oh, did you mean right now? Can you just give me a list and I'll get right on that? All of this is just a delay tactic. And that's the point. This is benefiting him because the benefit is time, right? Comfort. He gets to just sit there. Plausible deniability. I didn't really know what you meant. Plausible innocence. I didn't know that you needed it done right now. But he gets to not do the thing that you're asking, but he also gets to sound like a man who wants to improve, right? He gets credit for being open to communication. Imagine you went to couples therapy with a man like this. And for many women, you don't have to imagine it, right? Right. Better communication. Yes. What a great suggestion. Okay, so you two need to communicate better. Let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about how your communication has been going so far. Meanwhile, you're not talking about the actual issue. This is the same guy that's going to say, just tell me what you need. And then you tell him to do it and he gets upset with you because you didn't communicate it right. But he'll never tell you what the right way is because there is no right way. The right way is shut up and do it yourself. This is why abusive men are always going to make it the way you communicated or your ridiculous standards. They're going to fall into every single misogynistic trope about women so that they can do the thing that they want to do, which is nothing. They want you to just do everything and they'll use every trick in the book. And that is part of why I think it's so important for women to understand what these men are doing so that we can see the pattern. Your husband constantly tells you to communicate better, but he'll never tell you how. It's like he wants you to lose. And I find it so interesting, right? This is exactly how healthy language gets turned into this delay tactic that abusive men are just so good at. Now, my second example is we need to get on the same page. It is a crazy making one, okay? Let's just use the example of parenting. Like your kids are upset, they're dysregulated, overwhelmed, fighting, whatever, okay? And you're trying to regulate the kids. You're trying to complete this task of calming the kids down and parenting, teaching them something. So you want to hold a boundary without escalating. And in steps this authoritarian dad, right? Because aren't all abusive men seemingly authoritarian style? They just get mad, loud, reactive, angry. They shame, they threaten. They just make the whole damn thing worse. So the kids get more upset and the room gets hotter and you try to intervene and he's like, listen, we just need to get on the same page about the kids. Yeah, that sounds healthy. Of course, two parents should be on the same page. So it sounds logical, right? But co-parenting requires consistency and stable adults. Two stable adults if you're both doing the parenting. And that whole concept makes sense, right? What a beautiful sentence. Gold star, husband, great. But what exactly are we talking about here? What page? Is it the page where adults yell at children who need regulation? The page where fear is discipline? I'm curious, right? Is it the page where your calm parenting is then undermined because he stepped in where he wasn't asked to be in a task that you were fully doing, but you didn't scream at the kids and he thinks that you're too soft, right? He thinks that your parenting is just weak and permissive. Meanwhile, this is a grown man who can't tolerate a child having feelings. Oh my God, right? Now, the same page, whether we're using a parenting example or not, this whole concept is just don't challenge me. That's what I hear. Because in a healthy relationship, that would mean let's talk about the child's needs or let's talk about the issue that we're having, right? What works, what harms, how we repair, whatever, how we regulate ourselves first. That's what a healthy relationship would be. That would be the same page. That's the page that she's on. But in an abusive relationship, in a coercive dynamic, we need to get on the same page is don't disrespect me in front of the kids. Don't make me look bad. Stop protecting them from my anger, which is something that no healthy mother in her right mind would do, right? Don't name that he escalated or he's telling you to stop having a completely different standard than him, right? But we just need to get on the same page. Sounds very collaborative and mutual, right? But I'm telling you, he wants to land on obedience because he's not trying to find the page. He wants you to read from his page. We need to get on my page. That's really what he's saying to you. And the conversation goes nowhere because he's trying to control you. This is how you actually test the phrases that he's using, right? Okay, so let's get on the same page. Let's communicate better. Where does the conversation go? Does it lead to any change? Does he name what he did? Is he part of the communication? Does he ever say, yes, I yelled and I scared the kids and I should have stepped away? Does he repair with the kids or you? Does he make a plan? Does he do any of these things? Or does the same page become this vague thing that nobody ever actually gets to? All of these vague phrases, they're so useful to an abusive man because he doesn't want to measure accountability. So he just says these little fluffy, almost like marketing sentences, right? It sounds good, but what is it? Now, if we go back to this example using the co-parenting, what's the benefit for him, right? Well, I would call it authority, but he doesn't actually have to examine anything. So he frames himself as a co-parent, right? He's seeking unity. He's seeking the same page. That's a good thing, right? But he's ignoring the fact that his behavior escalated things. He gets to make your protection of the kids look like division, right? You disagreed, but actually what's happening is you are parenting in an authoritative way, which is healthy, which makes sense, which is also your choice as a parent. And that is a better way, a more effective way to parent children. But he wants yelling, even though we all know that doesn't actually make children feel better, doesn't actually teach children anything. But he's turning your disagreement with him, which he's creating in front of the children, right? You guys could talk about this later, but he wants to bring it up in the moment and involve himself and really take over your parenting. That's not the same page. The same page would at least be, even if you have two completely different parenting styles, where you go away from the children and have a healthy conversation. But his same page is you getting on his page. He's just bringing his ridiculous nervous system into the room and then making everyone else pay for it. That's not a united front at all, but that's how he frames it. Now, my third example is relationships take two. And I swear to you, this one is the most manipulative because it sounds the most reasonable. Relationships take two. Well, of course they do, right? We both have work to do. Absolutely. This is the framework of every couples counseling session that people have because the expectation is that both people in the room are here and open and willing to do the work because that's what it takes to be successful in couples therapy. So they use these therapy phrases, they put it into your relationship, but they're not actually part of the two. So you'll hear things like, I need effort from you too, or you never initiate, or you don't spend time with me. You're not even playful anymore. We used to have fun together. We don't even have fun together anymore. You don't make me feel wanted. You don't try. And in healthy relationships, two people matter. Effort matters. Affection. You need connection. Sex matters if both people want it. Shared time matters. All of this matters. But when it's abusive, this phrase is a trap. Because the person who is harming is asking the victim to invest more time into the relationship that he's making unsafe. To what end? What's the point of that? So you can be more playful with the man who punishes you and calls you names or yells at you? More sexually available to a man who pressures you? More affectionate to a guy who pressures you? Make it make sense. It makes no sense. He poisons the room and then he's like, oh, I want everybody to be happy here. It takes both of us. We both have to put in effort. Now, this whole sort of two sides thing, it flattens abuse because relationships do have two people, and every relationship, even an abusive one, each person has a perspective. So two people can contribute to disconnection, even to a toxic relationship, right? Objectively, facts are facts, right? If he yells, yelling happened. If he threatens, he threatened. I don't understand, right? If he controls money, that's what's happening. If he coerces sex, he coerces sex. He can have a different perspective about why he's coercing, but the fact is he's coercing. Objective facts need to be what we're talking from. That needs to be the framework from which we're speaking. It has to be. So if he insults you or scares you or pushes your boundaries or abuses you, then that's what's happening. Abuse isn't like a both sides thing, right? Well, relationships take two. And that's the thing that abusers say in response to abuse. And it's what men mean when they say women don't take accountability. Because what they want is for women to take accountability for provoking men into abuse. You know, the logical, even-keeled, alpha leader type men, the protectors, the providers, those men, right? They're easily provoked. They get incredibly emotional, but that's women's fault because men are in fact not in control of their own feelings, according to men. Men have no self-control, but they're logical, and we should trust them as leaders. It really makes no damn sense. But the fact that you react to being mistreated doesn't make abuse mutual. There's no such thing as mutual abuse. As I said, people can be toxic together, but abuse is not two sides. Abuse is one side. So the fact that women often react to being mistreated or the fact that they're less affectionate after being harmed, it doesn't mean that it's equal. It is a normal reaction for people of any gender to shut down after repeated cruelty. But that doesn't make you equally responsible for the relationship dying. Your response to harm isn't the same category as actually causing harm. But they always want to make it seem like it's the same. And at the end of the day, this is the core of the "this takes two" tactic, right? He wants effort from you, but he doesn't want to create safety. He wants sex, but he doesn't want to repair or make you feel safe. He wants closeness with you, but he's not actually going to take accountability. He wants you to be warm towards him, but he's not actually going to do anything to build trust. This is a man who wants all the benefits of a relationship, but he's going to refuse the conditions that make healthy relationships possible. It literally makes no sense. That's why they just throw these phrases at you, right? See, you don't try. You don't love me. You're distant. You're the reason we're like this because you can't get over the past. You keep bringing up old stuff. Get over it. Give me the clean slate. How are we ever going to move forward if you keep going on and on about the past? But that's not how this works. You can't just give someone a clean slate. But there's a real benefit here because it's false symmetry, right? This is the same. His abuse and your exhaustion of his abuse, it's the same thing, right? His cruelty is the same thing as you shutting down. If he's controlling, okay, fine, but you're distant. How is that the same thing? Yeah, okay, he pressures you sexually, but it's only because he's frustrated because you have a lack of desire. Meanwhile, the pressure created the lack of desire. His intimidation created your defensiveness. His neglect makes you resentful. And now he's just going to go, well, we both have issues. We both made mistakes. We both need to work on this. Relationships take two. False symmetry is truly one of the most damaging accountability dodges because it sounds so mature and healthy, but it erases the power difference. Very convenient for a man like this, right? And this works because you're trying to be fair. You are trying to be accountable because he tells you you need to be. You don't want to be rigid. You don't want to ignore your own part. You don't want to be one of those women who just blames everything on her husband. Well, congratulations to you because the patriarchy installed the guilt software very early for you, right? We both need to communicate. We both need to get on the same page. Relationships take two. And here you are, your conscience completely activates and he doesn't have to. This is why abusive men love the accountability sounding phrases because they know that you're going to pick up his half. A woman with a conscience can be manipulated into carrying responsibility for a man who is avoiding his, right? And we get hypnotized by this healthy wording because he sounds like the man that you're supposed to be with. He sounds like the man that you thought he was in the beginning. But what harm is being named? What action is not happening? What is being made mutual that is not mutual at all? He's not trying to solve a problem. He's actually probably trying to dissolve the problem, particularly from his plate, right? Healthy language doesn't make an unhealthy relationship safe. Communication can be weaponized, and that's what they're doing here. The question is, where does all of this lead? Does it lead to him owning anything? Does it lead to repair or change or safety or frigging anything? Let me guess. It leads to you explaining more, trying harder, changing your words, having sex that you don't want to have, which is unwanted sex, which is non-consensual sex, which there is a 4-letter word for, right? You're doing more labor, tolerating more harm, and you're calling it teamwork, right? We're working together like a healthy couple. Accountability that never lands in behavior is just wordplay. It's a complete waste of time. And some abusive men don't avoid accountability by sounding obviously cruel. They sound very reasonable, and women get sucked into that. This makes women sound completely crazy, but the outcome is that you carry more responsibility, more accountability, and his behavior stays exactly the same. Hit subscribe if you're not already. And if you're trying to work through this and understand a relationship that you're in like this or have already left, and you're still trying to understand what happened and help yourself move forward, you can work with me one-on-one or join any of my group coaching programs. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.